We mentioned that there are bureaucracies that report directly to Congress. We said most of the bureaucracy reports to the president, but there are three examples here of agencies that report directly to Congress. One is the CRS, does research for Congress. It's a wing of the Library of Congress. The GAO, Government Accountability Office, they make sure that agencies are spending money correctly, but they also look into compliance issues. Is this work being done correctly? Are the roads that the ICE-T Act authorize, are they being built correctly? The GAO can audit other government agencies as well. The CBO, it's kind of a unique animal in Washington, Congressional Budget Office. It's generally nonpartisan. It's well respected on both sides of the aisle as being nonpartisan. It provides Congress and the American people in general with financial prognostications. If a piece of legislation involves the tax code or involves tax deductions, the CBO will give an estimate of its impact on the federal budget or on the American economy as a whole. And their numbers are usually trusted. Now, how a bill becomes law. Well, you have to understand most bills don't become laws. Only about 10% of them make it. We went through this flowchart in class. Again, you can go through it. We spent a whole day going through it. I'm not going to go through it here in the review because I'm going to go into the review on the next slides. Again, someone from the House or the Senate has to introduce the bill into the hopper. It's assigned by the clerk a number. It's printed or posted online so people can refer to it. From there, it's referred to a committee. The leadership will refer a bill to a committee. If they don't refer a bill to the committee, it dies. Once it's referred to a committee, that committee chairman will often refer it to a subcommittee. Once it goes to a subcommittee, the subcommittee chairman will hold hearings on it. They'll call witnesses, they'll call experts, they'll talk to other members of Congress in a format that allows all sides of a bill to be heard. Once the subcommittee is finished with the bill, they can send it back up to the full committee if the subcommittee votes that way. Once the bill goes back to the full committee, markup can happen. Markup is where the committee members debate certain aspects of the bill, they make changes. It's just as if a teacher would mark up one of your papers and give it to you back for you to make corrections. Now, once markup is finished, the full committee can vote on the bill, they can take no action on the bill, or they can take action on the bill and send it on to the floor with a recommendation, without a recommendation, with a negative recommendation. Again, the full committee can decide what to do. It pretty much can do anything it wants to do with a bill. Again, the chairman of the committee here is powerful. If the chairman doesn't like the bill or like what the bill's become, he can decide not to schedule any votes on it. All right, in the House, we have a unique stage. From the committee in the House, it goes to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is unique in the process in the House. The Rules Committee in the House will set time for debate, length of debate, and what type of amendments, if any, can be added to the bill once it's on the floor. The House then, once it's through the Rules Committee, it goes to the House. It's scheduled for debate. The Democrats and Republicans have the same amount of time that they could spend on the bill. The House can decide to adjourn itself into a committee of the whole. An advantage of that is that they could act as a committee to mark up the bill, to make changes to the bill without having to go through the amendment process. So if the Rules Committee puts a rule on there that only certain types of amendments can be added to this bill, the House can decide to go into the committee of the whole and deliberate there and make changes to the bill as a whole committee. So once debate's over, once all the amendments have been added or subtracted or whatever else these people in Washington decide to do, a vote is taken. If the bill passes, it goes to the other body. In this case, we started with the House. It'll go over to the Senate. If it's defeated, it's done. Now, sometimes a bill can be considered in both houses at the same time, where you have a senator and a representative introduce bills into their respective bodies, and they're considered simultaneously. Now, once the bill gets into the Senate, it follows the same process as it started in the House. It gets a number. It gets assigned to a committee. It gets assigned to a subcommittee. Subcommittee looks at it. It goes back to the committee, and it's marked up. Now, there is no corresponding Rules Committee in the Senate. So from the Senate committee, it goes directly to the floor of the Senate. But each individual senator has different powers than what each individual members of the House have. A senator can put a hold on a bill or a nomination. That means they want to officially be notified when something is brought to the floor of the House. And until a senator removes his or her hold on a bill, no action can be taken. It can't be debated. It can't be voted on. It's a very powerful rule. The other powerful rule is a filibuster. It means unlimited debate, unlimited talking, unlimited holding of the floor by one member of the Senate. Once a senator decides to filibuster, all business stops on that bill. Nothing can happen. Now, do they actually have to take the floor of the Senate? No, but some rules have changed recently, not earth-shattering, but we'll talk about those in a minute. Now, the only way to end debate in the Senate is by a cloture vote. It means 60 senators have to agree to end debate, and then debate will end on that bill and a vote can be taken. Some new rules were passed in January of 2013. It's a little bit harder to filibuster. Senators used to filibuster a parliamentary procedure called the motion to proceed, which was the technical requirement that got a bill from committee to the floor. They agreed that they can't filibuster that anymore, but they can still filibuster the actual legislation, so who really cares? They cleaned up some procedural language when we talk about a conference committee, and they agreed that they're not going to hold up minor presidential appointments, such as assistant secretaries of this, deputy undersecretaries of that, just for hours and not forever anymore. Now, the Senate passes a bill, the House passes a bill. Chances are they're not going to look alike. They are going to look similar, but not identical. They have to look identical for the president to get it. So if the bills are different, they go to a conference committee, which is made up of members of the Senate and members of the House, where they come to a compromise bill. A conference report or a conference bill is created. That bill goes immediately back to the floor of the House and to the floor of the Senate, where it's voted on again. If it passes both chambers, then it finally goes to the president. Once the president gets a bill, he can do four things with it. He can sign it, it becomes law. He can veto it, it goes back to the Congress, where both houses have to pass it by a 2/3 majority for it to become a law without the president's signature. And the president can ignore the bill. If the president ignores the bill, in 10 days, if Congress is still in session, it becomes a law. If the president ignores a bill and Congress adjourns or goes home in those 10 days, then the bill dies and it's considered to be pocket vetoed. For the bill to start the process again, it would have to be reintroduced and go through the entire process again. The president has certain powers over Congress. Congress has certain powers over the president. That's the beauty of our system of checks and balances. The president can veto legislation. The president can appoint people to certain positions. But the Congress can override the veto. The Congress can decide that they don't like the president's appointments. And the Congress can also impeach and then remove a president from office. Congress has also, as I mentioned before, oversight powers where they can investigate or make investigations into all sorts of different things, from Major League Baseball to the attacks on our ambassador in Benghazi. They're not considering legislation, they're just looking into what actually has gone on, kind of focusing a spotlight on events. The Congress passed the War Powers Act, which we talked about when we did the chapter on the president. Congress can confirm or reject presidential appointments, and it can impeach and remove the president, vice president, and members of the judiciary. Speaking of which, if the Congress doesn't like what a certain Supreme Court justice is doing or a certain member of the federal judiciary, they can impeach, and then the Senate can vote to remove them from office. The Senate can pass, the House and Senate can pass laws without the president's signature by overriding his veto. The Senate has to approve all treaties by a 2/3 vote, and it has to approve all ambassadors and everything else. The Senate and the House can also vote new legislation if the Supreme Court declares an act of Congress to be unconstitutional. Congress can take it back and rework it and then pass new legislation that addresses the court's concerns, or in extreme cases, the Congress can vote to issue a new constitutional amendment. Of course, it would have to be approved by 3/4 of the states. Now, again, a reminder, if you have any questions at all, you can email me at grabuskyc@shasd.net or grabuskyc@haven.k12.pa.us. Have a good evening.